Just wanted to have a little coffee and man, I some of these age-old arguments that have been settled a long time ago keep cropping back up, and it just amuses me to no end. But it's like every generation, it's like playing whack-a-mole. I mean, there's so much propaganda and misinformation out there about political ideologies. It's astonishing, and they're so easily debunked. But yet we keep having to have the same conversation, and it is a little bit galling at times. You it's like you finally settle down. Like, look, the Earth is round. It's a globe. It just is. It was discovered that way when we were sailing on wooden ships powered by the wind, and they were using the stars to navigate. And back then, and using a rudimentary telescope. And back then, they figured out, there is no edge of the planet. We're not falling off. We live on a globe, right? It's the same shit with political ideology. And it's frustrating. Merry Christmas Day, Kev. It's just frustrating. You know, if you truly want to know something about a particular issue, all you have to do is go look to the people who actually created the thing, and they could tell you straight up. It's clearly documented who these people were, what they believed, because they wrote it all back down back then. You can look up their entire biography. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's what it is. So how you doing, Day Cab? What you up to, man? Try to choke down some coffee, but I just had a bagel, so it's fighting for room on the guts. Ugh. Probably not a good idea. You're supposed to wait a little while after you eat, but I'm all fired up. Hey, Vince, Merry Christmas. For those of you who may have just want a little bit of, if you've heard this argument, you may want to know a little bit more about it. Where do you go? See, you know all about socialism, right? He's like, oh, it's Marx and Engels. But they're very quiet on who the author of fascism is, right? It didn't just bubble up out of the ether. It was created. And if you want to know what fascism is, then go to the person who created the damn thing. And that individual's name is Giovanni Gentile. He was an Italian philosopher, and his philosophy is about actualism, and it's pretty far out there. Not gonna lie, it's hard for me even to digest what the hell he actually believed, because I'm not a big philosophical guy, because I think a lot of philosophers are gold-bricking pederasts in the end, right? A lot of them were just like kid diddlers, and I just want nothing to do with that. Or they're just they'll focus on one epiphany in their life. They're like, oh, I'm gonna make my life centered around this concept, and we'll just go with it. And it's just like, whatever. Whatever. You funny, Skippy. A little racist, but funny. Well, thank you, Gigi. It's hard for me to explain. You're gonna have to go look it up yourself. There's better people that can break it down for you. But I'm just that is what he was. He was an actualist. That was his philosophy. It's almost like the people can manifest shit by thinking about it really hard. It actualizes in their life. It's kind of like down those lines, right? You ever heard of the book The Secret? I know it's popular back in the early 2000s. It's kind of along those lines, but not quite. It's you got to understand this guy was from like 100 years ago. So I mean, ideologies and philosophies can get tweaked over time, right? It's been 100 years, but it's along those lines. It's weird. I can make manifest anything, or everything's just real. Real is reality, and it's just like I said, just go look it up. But that's what he was, you know, and he was a lifelong socialist, as was Mussolini. And they fought tooth and nail for socialism. They were socialists. And they just got to the point where they saw what happened with the Bolsheviks over in Russia. And they liked what they saw, but they felt that it didn't go far enough. It didn't, socialism was a failure in their eyes because they didn't feel it went far enough. And so what they did, speaking about Gentile and then Mussolini, is that they took the concept of socialism and then they put a nationalist bent to it. Now, nationalism by itself is not necessarily far right. Having a love for your country is not necessarily far right. That's a misnomer. That's a label they thrust upon the National Socialists and the fascists to delineate them from the globalist communists, right? And that's all. It's essentially the difference between communism and fascism, by the way. One's a national socialism and the other one is global socialism. The Italians and the Germans didn't care about a worldwide workers' revolution. They wanted to fix their countries because they were war-torn from World War I. They wanted to take care of home first before they worried about everyone else. And that makes it easier. That makes it more manageable. It's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Well, you do that by concentrating on where you live first. But in that regards, and that's why fascism and communism are so similar, is because they're both their foundational ideologies is grounded on socialism. I agree. There we go. I should be back. Yeah, philosophy is just overeducated people devising ways to get out of doing actual work. That's why I didn't really have any love for the Greeks with their academy, like in ancient Athens, because it was just overly smart men sitting around their togas all day, scratching their ass, having stupid ass theoretical debates, thought experiments like I used to have on, after drinking 5 liters of Mountain Dew at a D&D session, on a 48-hour bender on a weekend. So it's no difference, right? I mean, they would just come up with some of the dumbest shit, just like, and they would troll each other incessantly. They were just basically a big D&D group, but they got slaves to build their academy. And then they got the diddle little kids all day. I mean, it just, while the real people were out there doing the work of civilization, the shepherds, the blacksmiths, the farmers, and everything else that goes along with it, the people that turn the wool and the cloth and whatnot, those are the people. I keep losing my connection. I don't know what's going on. They did. The ancient Greeks. I mean, they didn't have the morals and ethos that we have about people like we do today, and they just don't. Hey, man, we can go down that road, but I mean, let's be real, all right? There's an entire whole ass religion out there that's built upon pedophilia worship. I'm just saying. There is a lot of people on this planet that are perfectly okay with diddling kids. They just are. And it's not even debatable. It's a sad reality, and that's even involved in the psyche of the human condition. But that's where it is. One of his best subjects was pulling stuff out of your ass. Yeah, okay. No, you don't have to agree, Dave. I know you don't agree, but it's the truth. You go look up Giovanni Gentile, and he will tell you in his own words that he was a socialist. Mussolini says in his own words he was a socialist. He worked for the Socialist Party in Italy until he got into a pissing power match. He was gaining too much popularity. The elders of the Socialist Party in Italy at the time saw him as a threat. Mussolini's like, well, fuck you. I'll just start my own party. I'll take this guy Gentile under my wing, right? Because he's got I like what the cut of his jib. I'm going to implement some of his philosophy into socialism to make it more Italian, and then I'm going to go take power. And he did. That's essentially what happened. No, I only got a couple of months. Sir, what education base do you have in order to possess these views? It's called having eyes and a mind to comprehend the words on pages, and reading these people's opinions in their own words. I, you don't have. I'm sorry. Do I need to be a biologist to tell you what a woman is, like Ketanji Brown? Oh, I can't tell you what a woman is because I'm not a biologist. No, because we're not stupid here. Yet we're a lot of things on the TC Boggs channel, but being a moron isn't one of them. All right. If you are a moron and you want to hear, I don't know how. I guess I have to petition Google about my algorithm. Well, I am a bit of a blue collar guy, drummer boy, so I probably will cuss a little bit. I'm a passionate guy. That's what I do. This is not. I am not Mr. Rogers. and this ain't his neighborhood. Well, I mean, look, man, do I need to have a political science degree to read about these guys? I mean, let's just be real about it. I don't know why I keep losing my connection. That's crazy. Well, see, I mean, you follow Sage, so I mean, he's an idiot. He is. He's a hermit idiot. He's a shut in, and he takes a lot of shit out of context and tries to throw it together into a video, because he's got the time to do that because he's terminally online, because he's a shut in. It's just him and his cats. I'm actually out here working, whatever. Did he really? See, I don't even talk about that moron unless you guys bring him up. I don't. He's not. I used to talk to Sage all the time. We used to be, I wouldn't say friends, but we were acquaintances until he stabbed me in the back. He showed his true colors. And to me, I am very much about loyalty, right? You can have a disagreement with somebody, but you don't have to go and stab somebody in the back purely just to make content on social media on that argument. It was completely egregious, unnecessary, and lacking in scruples. All right, if you're following that guy, know what you're getting into. Right? He's a salesman, but he's not a very good one, and he's not as bright as you think he is. You should see his emails. He literally has a sixth grade grasp on the English language. He just does. I wish it weren't so. It's not my fault. All right. He wraps himself in slick packaging. He's terminally online, so he can do things like this. I'm out here working. I'm in my truck right now. I just had a free moment to come, you know, cut it up with you guys for a little bit. He said you were a racist. I believe I am not. I am a culturalist, but I am not a racist. I will wear the culturalist flag. I don't think all cultures are equal. They're just not. Nor are they all compatible. It has nothing to do with ethnicity. But that's okay. What's up, Bobby? Merry Christmas, man. Volunteer fighter, but that's not socialism, is it? No. See, that's another misnomer right there. Services are not ideology. Just because something comes from the public largesse does not make it socialism. That is propaganda. Straight up propaganda. Having roads, having a fire department, like your example, or a police department, or a sanitation, just because these are paid by your taxes does not make it socialism. That is it's propaganda. I'm trying to be PC here. It's propaganda. That is not what socialism is. People have been paying taxes to the government and they've been paying the public works or welfare since forever. That doesn't make it socialism. The Romans were not socialists, all right? No, I will never talk to him again. I don't talk to traitors. I have him blocked. He's going to remain blocked, and that's just where he's going to stay. And if I never hear his name again, so much the better. I've got nothing to say to him, and he's got nothing to say to me. When you cross that line as a duplicitous backstabber, I got nothing to say to you. When you try to use somebody's acquaintance that was, I don't know, could have been building to a friendship, and then you use that person as content for what? For what? What did it gain you? Not a damn thing. Not a damn thing. You know, you can have disagreements with your pals all you want, but just to go out, I mean, he's the type of asshole who's going to go out there and record your conversations on a private phone call, and then later on he's going to start airing out what you said between just the two of you, and then use that as content as a gotcha moment. I can't fuck with people like that. Pardon my French. I can't ride with people like that. I just won't. I did not use when he was being civil and we had a civil back and forth. Sure, but it went personal really damn quick, unnecessarily so. I mean, I wasn't coming at him hard. I was having a disagreement with his idea. But you see, if you disagree with Sage, because he thinks he's the sage, right? It's in his name. He thinks he's the sage. He's the number one intellectual. His word is law. It's the beginning and the end. There is no getting out of line with that. As soon as you deviate from Sage's rhetoric, then you're a moron or you're a racist or you're this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then he's going to smear you across social media, even on social media sites that he damn well knows that you're not on, to try to get people all riled up so they can come fuck with you offline. And that's what happened. I've got nothing to say to the guy. Are you afraid of Putin? No, because I'm an American. But if I were Russian, probably. If I definitely as a Ukrainian. What about the Oompa Loompas? Because he's short and fat and dumpy looking, right? He already went personal at that point, Diver, so I just had a little fun with it. Was it nice of me? No. Was it funny to me? Because because he has a squeaky voice like the Munchkinvilles. I represent the Lollipop Guild. Hi, my name is Sage, and but he has a squeaky high voice, but he also sounds like this. He's Sylvester the Cat. And I trip over my own words all day. But I'm really smart. No, I'm most definitely not afraid of Sage. Mr. Timball. What's going on? Yes, Texas. Texas gang gang. Currently living in Russia, what would you describe the government as? We call it communist, but you tend to have a president. No, they're clear. I would say they're clearly an oligarchy. I would say they are going back to a czarist type of system in Russia. I mean, Boris gave it a good shot as the first president of the Russian Federation, but it's been primarily Putin, though he did have Medvedev go in for one term to pay lip service to the Russian Constitution, but it seems like that has been thrown out the window since then, and he's basically dictator for life at this point. So it seems, look, man, and I've gotten some flack for this, but here's the reality of the world situation. Democracies are no longer in vogue. They're no longer as functional or as effective as they used to be. They're just not. They're slow on purpose because democracies are built on deliberation and debate, and that's not what we need right now in the world, because the authoritarian governments are actually gaining power rapidly. And since they are headed by one person, that is the shot caller, they get things done with a lot more alacrity than we can do as a democracy or a republic, as in our case. But the way with the advances of technology, we will be left behind if we stay as we are in our current form of government. We just will be. We will be overtaken eventually by the Chinese. The Russians will be to a longer extent. They're still more of a regional power, but if they do turn in their risk cards and go after Europe, they could be on the global stage again real quick. Real quick. Who pays the tariffs, Mr. Boggs? That would be the importers. They go to the customs house and they pay the tariffs up front, and then they sell the goods on the local market, hoping to recoup their costs from the American public. That's not always the case. There is no guarantee that they will sell the product, or which is kind of the point, because the government's incentivizing people to buy domestic. Use a translator from Russia on. Only on my channel. .vision. Only on my channel, as it should be. As it should be. I like a lot of what Trump's policies have. Yeah, I mean, Trump is a tool. He's a political tool. I don't worship him, but he is enacting a lot of the policies I've been advocating for a long time. Chief among those are being the tariffs. I am 100% for tariffs and protectionism. I am for keeping our jobs. Being a working class American, it's in my best interest to have tariffs. Well, I'm old enough to remember what life was like prior to NAFTA and the aftermath of NAFTA and how we got to this where we're at right now. And it's a hellscape compared to what it used to be. There's a reason we're not going to have the same lifestyle that our parents are, the silent generation. Depending how old you are, I'm 50. So my dad's a boomer, and his father was he was born like in 1908. So it wasn't the greatest generation. I don't know what generation that would be prior to the greatest generation. the World War II generation. But still, the reason why we're out here working our ass off, and we're, a lot of us are barely making it, even though we are working, is because our wealth and our country has been hollowed out and shipped overseas. It just has. And I am frankly tired of it. I'm tired of it. And I'm not the only one. So we voted for Trump because we wanted the tariffs, we wanted the protectionism. We got tired of these companies being incentivized to go overseas just to go turn around and make our products we were already making. They're going to do it with poor environmental practices and slave labor and sell us back the goods, our own goods we were already making. And I'm just tired of it. I'm just tired of it. And it's turning out that the NIMBYs, oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be all air clean. All that. Look, man, what happens over there comes here. For example, all the clean air solutions that California is trying to implement is going to be nothing because all the factories in China, well, that pollution gets in the jet stream, and guess what? It just goes across the Pacific and lands here. It's no difference being here in Texas. You realize in Texas, we'll occasionally get sandstorms. It's not from West Texas. It's literally from the sands of the Sahara Desert, get blown up in the atmosphere out of Africa, and it lands over here. No bullshit. So, if you like making a living and if you're tired of your infrastructure crumbling, several years ago, like the Minneapolis bridge on I-35 collapsed. You got bridges and potholes that can't get fixed. Schools are crumbling. I mean, Baltimore, for Christ's sakes, they can't afford heating or cooling for their schools. It's because the wealth of our nation has been hollowed out and shipped overseas. Those factories that were here, the manufacturers that were here, are keystone. It's like going to a Walmart, right? You got the Walmart and you got the little satellite stores around it, right? But the main draw is the Walmart, and these other little stores there and the little strip malls alongside the Walmart are hoping for some overflow traffic so you can give them some of your attention as well. Well, it's no different. That factory making the widget, you had all the employees living in the area, so they're buying the homes, and everyone's going to buy the furniture and the food, and then you also had the parts manufacturer for that factory, and then the restaurants and everything else, and then all that money circulated within the community, right? And then that means taxes were being paid and infrastructure was being maintained, and everything is great. Well, we don't have that anymore, and everything's crumbling. But hey, you save $5 on a pair of jeans, so you have that. Yeah, here unfortunately more of a assembly than true manufacturing. Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of it's going to go to basically you disagree with the in some regards, I do. In some regards, I do disagree with the Constitution. Yes, I don't care what Sage says. I don't call maniacs. Yeah, God damn it, Diver. I know. I'm talking about being old enough to see prior to NAFTA. Yes, I understand we have the USMCA now. You don't have to correct me on that. I wasn't talking about the USMCA. See, it's just you bring some of the shit. You just try to play gotcha instead of actually have a conversation, dude. You want to play gotcha with me, and I don't understand that. A lot of times you're cool, and I think you're trying to make a point, and we can have a good back and forth, and maybe find some common ground, and then you get so pedantic about dumb shit that I'm not even talking about. I wasn't talking about the USMCA. I was saying that I'm old enough as a Gen X what life was like prior to NAFTA. And then after that point, what America looks like to where we are now. Why did you even bring up the USMCA? Yes, I do. I am a civic nationalist. I want what is best for our country and for our people. That's why I'm pro-tariff. That's why I'm pro-deportations. As a matter of fact, we need to go further and harder in the paint on the deportations by going after the business owners. I would flog these business owners in public. Just straight up flog them on national TV for what they have done to our country in order to save. We have fought. We lost an entire generation of men in the 1860s settling this debate. We don't have second-class citizens here in the United States, but these business owners, in conjunction with the both sides of the political aisle, have allowed a second-class citizenry to flower. And you'll get dipshits like Sage saying that we need these people because when I come out here and blow my whistle at the Lowe's or a Home Depot, I want a whole group of cheap labor to come running to my truck so I can get some shit done at the house on the sly. And I'm like, no. And if that's the way you want to run your country, that's anarchy, because you cannot show me what other laws can I violate where I can avoid taxes and just violating labor law in general. And then meanwhile, you have the guy across the street that's fully insured and bonded, that went through the process. He has actual employees. He's paying their wages. He's paying their health care and their Social Security and all that. But he's going to lose business because a guy like Sage wants to go whistle over at Home Depot like he's fucking Willy Wonka, and all these Oompa Loompas just show up out of the ether to go do cheap work at his house, instead of getting that handyman business or the plumber or whatever. It's illegal labor. And it devolves into slavery, as we have found out. Hey, do you not remember the pot farm being raided over in California? And they had undocumented teenagers working out there? That is child labor laws. Not just labor, child labor laws. Our ancestors fought like fucking crazy to eliminate that. You don't remember those old photos of the miners, those kids in the coal mines? They're like 6 years old and they're already smoking a pipe, covered from head to toe in soot, underground all damn day, being paid not even real money, but in company script. But hey, you got your coal cheaper, right? So all was good. You're missing the point. You have to be a certain age. You can't just be a kid, go work in a damn pot farm. They were there because they were paying off their balance to the cartels. They didn't necessarily want to be on the pot farm. They didn't have a choice. They were literally slaves. Do you not understand this? Why do I have to explain this to you? I know. And still, Daycap, people right fucking there, they're defending it. Well, teenagers can be workers too. Yeah, I was a busboy at Bonanza back in the day. But I got paid. It was a regular job, but I was also over 16. I was like 17 years old. Right? It was a part-time job to make a little extra cash so I could buy my car. I wasn't being forced to live as an undocumented person on a fucking farm out in the middle of nowhere where if I wanted to leave, I couldn't. That's slavery. And you are defending that. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's why we need an authoritarian. If I were a Trump, I would just say, you know what? I'm just taking control. You guys are assholes. You're getting in the way of me fixing the country. I'm just going to jail the rest of you, and I'm going to get on with the rest of my day. And there wouldn't be a fucking thing you can do about it, and the country would be better off in the long run. I mean, it just is. It just would be. 100%. And you guys can all squawk like little, blackbirds or whatever the fuck, like in the corner all you want, but you'll step in fucking line or your ass going to go to jail. And then that'll be the end of it. And then we're going to bring back morals and values and what made this country great, and we're going to put it on the tracks, and then eventually, like Cincinnatus did back in the day, uh, relinquish power back to the people after everything has been unfucked, and then go on about my merry way. That's what I would do. But it wasn't a generalization. That's essentially what is happening to these people. It is a form of indentured servitude. You are locked up on this farm where in this country that you should not be in, so you have no recourse when things go bad in that farm. Who are you going to run to? OSHA? You're not supposed to be here. You're afraid you're going to get deported. That is leverage. You owe cartels a certain amount of money for getting your ass over here to begin with. And if you don't pay them, not only will you start losing appendages or sold into sex slavery, because there's a lot of fucking perverts out here, we're going to go after your family back home too. And we're going to take it out on your mom and your little sister and maybe your papa too. You understand? It's extortion. Which is why we're nuking the cartels right now, because we're tired of that shit. Should have happened a long time ago. I don't want Mexico to be a basket case. I want them to be a strong and solvent nation, just like Canada to our north, right? We don't have these problems out of Canada, but we got bucket loads of them coming out of Mexico. I don't want Mexico to be a basket case. I want them to come over here and we to go over there, and we're very happy, go lucky neighbors, and everything is hunky dory. Had to wait for my connection to come back. But we don't have that. Mexico's a basket case. It's a failed narco state. Cartels have got to go. They just got to go. And they're going to go. Fix the way you want them to be in time for you to enjoy. Just enjoy with it. Hey, man, the YouTube for me is cathartic. All right? Instead of screaming out my window all day, I can do it in this little black box and have a little interaction with you fine people. All right? In the end, that's what it is. It's not like I'm making money off of this, at least not a tremendous amount. Though I'm like 50 cents away for them to release my $100. I'm trying to get that. It's a 99.48, but it's got to get that 100 for them to cut me a check, and I've been waiting months to get that. So I just think that's funny. But no, I just do this just because there's a lot of frustration out there, and I'm not the only one feeling it. All right, but not everyone wants to get in front of a camera and express their opinions. That's not from a politician, just from a normal working class Joe, just like me and you, right? And a politician's not going to have a dialogue like we're having between me and you in the chats. So it's healthy to talk, because when you're sitting there pent up and you don't have an outlet, that's when the crazy comes out. That's when the crazy comes out. If you have all this pent up frustration, you have no outlet. Yeah, we have examples of that. Hey, there's nothing wrong with working gig economy, whatever, man. I'm not knocking it. I'm sure taxi companies are pissed about it, but it is what it is. I would love to meet in the middle, but here's the problem. We tried that. It even got so milquetoast back in the 90s. It's called the Uniparty. And you see that in effect right now. Literally back in the day, there was no difference in policy between, say, George Bush Jr. and Bill Clinton. There just wasn't. There was no policy difference whatsoever. The only difference between Bill Clinton and George Bush was one had an R on his name and the other one had a D. That's Uniparty. And we know this because they had similar results. They had similar results because they had the same policies by and large. And they ran the country into the ground. Up to that point, we had milquetoast president, then we had Obama. Obama was a radical. He was our first radical in a long time, to be honest. And it showed in how he governed. He got a pass because he was the first minority elected as president, and I can see a little bit to that to give him a little bit of deference. But his policies were horrible, and the way our government country was governed, he had the opportunity to actually heal the racial divide in our country, but he doubled down and exacerbated it. We back in the 80s and 90s, we were along the ways of healing to a certain extent past racial grievances, and then he opened the wound and just poured salt and bleach and any other caustic chemical you could think of into there to separate us again. And it's been awful since then, unfortunately. Fast and Furious. I mean, drone striking American citizens, um, allowing the Arab Spring. The whole reason we're dealing with a lot of the bullshit in Europe right now is what he allowed Hillary to do in Libya. We should have learned our lesson about deposing a stabilizing dictator like a Saddam over in Iraq. Well, we didn't even give Libya that treatment. We just outright had Gaddafi killed, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But the situation in Libya and North Africa is worse now because of Obama and the Arab Spring, whereas Gaddafi was keeping a lid on a lot of the crazies, kind of like Saddam. Now there's open air slave markets alive and well in Libya right now, and people are evacuating the country at a breakneck pace, trying to get across the Mediterranean on anything that'll float across the water. Dinghies, doors, what have you. As long as it goes north, they're okay. And Obama caused that, and we're still feeling the ramifications of that today. Um, the rise of Antifa and BLM occurred under Obama, um, because the racial grievances that he chose to inflame instead of heal. He he did a lot of damage to this country. But again, he gets a pass because he was a minority. It is what it is. But he was a dyed in the wool Marxist, and his policies were dog shit. Even his half-ass implementation of the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, that we're dealing with the ramifications today. Uh, it was a. I like the premise. I wouldn't mind having universal health care, honestly, even as a Republican. Uh, but the ACA is dog shit. It's a hybrid system. You either need to go full capitalist or you need to go where it's universal health care. This hybrid system is dog shit. And the only people that benefited from it are the insurance companies. And again, they're hollowing out the wealth of our country. Um, in a lot of regards, health insurance premiums are as high as your fucking mortgage. Pardon my French. That's ridiculous. That's utterly ridiculous. Well, it was signed off by only Democrats. No Republicans voted for the Affordable Care Act. So it is their dog and pony show. The Republicans were telling them from the very beginning, this bill is dog shit. It's doomed to failure. It's not going to work. And lo and behold, they're correct. All right. So it's not necessarily Trump's responsibility to fix it. They're just not. But he's going to have to. It's going to have to be scrapped, and something better is going to have to be implemented. I'd be okay with Medicare for all. Just like bucket, no more Medicaid. We're just going to have Medicare for everyone, and that's all there is to it. And if you can afford private insurance, if you want like a personalized doctor, well, we're a capitalist country. Go out and buy the services of a private doctor. Nothing wrong with that. Whatever. But it's not free. It's not free. I can't stand it when people say that. It's not free healthcare. There is nothing free. Just because it's taken out as a tax and you don't see it as a premium does not make it free. You are still paying for the service. I, Either way, you're paying for the stuff. right? Doctors are not slaves. Nurses are not slaves. Radiologists aren't slaves. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their own heart. They're doing it because it's their career and they get a salary. And that salary comes from the hospitals, and those hospitals are paid by the government, which is taxpayers. It's not free. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Pinochet did nothing wrong as far as I'm concerned. He saved Chile, and Chile just backed away from another socialist precipice by electing another guy. Do you realize that after Pinochet yeeted those communists, that Chile was like the number three economy in America? It was the United States, Canada, and then Chile for quite some time. I don't know if you guys realize that or not. Your NHS taxes? No, bullshit. No, it's not. As an American, I know that's bullshit. I like to listen to like the podcast of the Lotus Eaters and Sargon of Akkad, and they talk about the NHS quite frequently, actually. So uh, I try to stay abreast of what's going on in my cousin countries over in Europe. And no, your NHS is not 1%. As a matter of fact, with your unchecked migration, your entire system is about to collapse upon itself. Um, because you have too many medical tourists going over there, taking advantage of your system, and then there's too many people arriving that can't even speak the language, taking from the system and not paying into it. See, that is a big problem with a lot of these systems. If you live in a homogenous culture and a people, and you have a regulated immigration policy, and you actually control your borders, you have a shot. Yes. As soon as you upset one of those dynamics, you're having some problems. And right now, Europe is going through a lot of problems. No, I agree. Look, man, I just said as a Republican, I want universal health care. I do. I've been a proponent of universal health care for a long time. I think it's one of those things that if we all pay into it, we all benefit. Kind of like Social Security, right? We all pay into it, we all get the benefit from it. I think that's fair. There are no gold brickers. Everyone pays. It's like a sales tax. You buy something, you're paying a little bit of sales tax. It doesn't matter if you're poor as fuck or if you're Jay Rockefeller or J. Paul Getty. Doesn't matter. You buy something, you pay a sales tax. Well, it should be the same way for healthcare, I think, for a variety of reasons. And some of that's because I used to be a licensed insurance agent. I worked in health insurance specifically prior to the ACA. So I remember how the old system was and people being denied coverages. I don't know how many times I had to tell people they were denied coverage. Hell, back then I would be denied coverage too. That's why I didn't go the entrepreneur route, because I needed health insurance. Because of my asthma. And at the time, the height weight index was all out of whack, so I couldn't qualify um, for private insurance. The only guaranteed coverage I get is working for a group plan, and that means working with an employer, an established, large employer that can afford the premium. So I was kind of locked into that. But yeah, it was very difficult to be an entrepreneur back in the day and get health insurance for you and your family. That's why so many people went without. And that was a problem by itself. And it's not necessary. If we just all had health insurance, like I said, you're paying for it one way or the other. So it's going to be a tax or a premium. I would just rather everyone have it because we're all paying taxes into it, right? And then the government can go after a lot of these. Part of the reason why our health insurance is so high is because these doctors and hospitals and all these other ancillary uh, medical services are so overpriced that it's to the point of absurdity. They should healthcare should not be quite this expensive. I understand you got to make a living, but then there's fleecing people and then holding your health hostage. Hey, you don't want to die tomorrow, right? So you're gonna pay 10 grand for that pill, right? Am I right or am I right? So that needs to stop.
It's way overpriced, and I'm glad Trump is at least tackling it. He's at least he's tackling the the prescription rates, right? He's going after the major pharmaceutical companies, and he's telling them you are going to lower prices on Americans, or you're going to be in for a bad ride. And they're like, okay, okay, and they are. Uh, and you're going to see that reflected in the new year. I know. I know. It's really. Well, here's the thing, though. And see, that's a misnomer, too. Look, if you have a devastating illness like that, they still have to treat you. And it's not like these hospitals can go repo your health care, right? Your kid is still going to get treatment. So that I don't know where that's bad Hollywood right there, honestly.
Well, Europe can do a lot of that because they don't pay for their military. The American taxpayer has been subsidizing not only your military but your health care, to be perfectly honest. The reason you guys have been gold bricking so long on the cost of your prescriptions is because they've been overcharging us here in the States to make up the difference in the profits. Similarly with your military. That's changing. And then a lot of the NATO allies couldn't be bothered even to maintain the bare bones percentage of GDP going into uh, their military funding, right? They're supposed to be paying us for weapons and hardware and all this other stuff, right? But to contribute, if you're not going to contribute manpower or actually have a functioning military, you're supposed to be paying us, and they hadn't even been doing that. And they've been investing like, oh, I'm going to give free tuition to four-year universities to our students, and then free healthcare and free this, free that, because you don't have the financial obligations as the American taxpayer. And we're tired of it, and we can no longer afford it. So we're coming for that money. And yeah, uh, some of Europe is probably going to go through some austerity measures because it's fair. We as American citizens are no longer going to be subsidizing the European lifestyle. You're going to have to start paying for your shit, and that's all there is to it. And that's why they're so pissed off at Trump right now. But tough shit. Russia's not on our border; they're on yours, and you're expecting us to come fight your war. Why? What's my incentive? What the hell do I care? I'm all the way on the other side of the Atlantic. You got to sweeten the pot. Trump said himself the UK is one of the only ones that pay, so don't lie about my. There have been many countries in the NATO alliance that were not paying their percentage of GDP as they were supposed to. As a matter of fact, Trump just got the NATO treaty renegotiated where they're actually increasing the base amount going into military spending. I think they're going from 2%. I think the bare bones minimum now is going to be 5%, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard the 5% being the new baseline being thrown around. So, hey, look, prime example of what I'm talking about is the military protecting the Red Sea corridor up to the Suez Canal to the Mediterranean, right? When you got the Houthi dipshits out there launching missiles at ships because they think they're affiliated with the Jews. I'm like, what the hell does this have anything to do with the United States? We don't really use the Suez Canal. We use the Panama Canal. We're on the other side of the friggin' planet. What the hell do we care about the Suez Canal and keeping the Red Sea lane open so Europe can maintain their free shipping lane from Asia into to EU proper? That's who uses that. It's the EU, not the United States. But the United States is the one sending ships over there, nuking the hell out of the Houthis. Why is that? It should be Britain and France and Germany and Italy. It should be these countries over there knocking the hell out of the Houthis and telling them to settle down. But it's the American taxpayer taking care of it for your benefit. Now, as a country, we receive the benefit for implementing Pax Americana because we maintain it as a hegemony on the world stage, which is now being threatened. And a lot of you guys out there are like, yeah, fuck America, yeah, not realizing that the new world order would be Russia, Iran, and China. And as pissed off as you think you are at the United States, you ain't seen nothing until those guys are in charge. And then you really will be in deep shit. So you need to grab your sovereignty by the throat, and you need to get your own manifest destiny going, and you need to re-kick. You're being invaded by the Muslim hordes, and you are not controlling your borders, and you don't have the military to stop anybody. You can't stop a rubber dinghy going across the channel or across the Mediterranean, landing on your shores, and then you, as a citizen, being forced to pay for all these people. You don't even have the wherewithal to stop that, much less a Russian incursion. You realize that? At the rate you're going right now, Europe won't even be Europe in 50 to 75 years. At that point, you'll be begging the Russians to come in and liberate you from Sharia law. Because of all the faults the Russians have, they're pretty fucking based being Orthodox Christians. And they don't tolerate a lot of bullshit. Because even they know that to call themselves Russia, they have to be populated by Russians. And they have a national identity. That up to and including a religion in Christianity. I'm just saying. On paper, we shouldn't be fighting with Russia, like at all. There's no reason to. They're not the Soviets of old. Unfortunately, Putin's kind of a holdover from that era. But after Putin's gone, hopefully we can get a next generation new blood in there, and they won't be quite as much of a prick, and we can get along with them. I hope. I really do. I mean, I was so happy when the Iron Curtain fell. And then, I got to witness the Berlin Wall coming down, and you saw the reunification between East and West Berlin and Germany in general. It was a beautiful time. It was a beautiful time. And we should be friends, like straight up. And it's sad to see that we're kind of devolving at this point. This guy's a big joke. Oh, because I want friendly terms with Russian people. Yeah, I'm a joke because I want friendly terms with Russians. Of why would I have a problem with Russian people? See, this is the shit that I gotta deal with on a daily, guys. Unbelievable. It's not like those poor Russian lads want to be out there getting thrown into to the grist mill in Ukraine. You know that, right? They didn't have a choice. They got press ganged into it. Just like a lot of our poor slobs got press gang in the Vietnam, right? A lot of those guys didn't want to be there, getting thrown into a hamburger grinder in Southeast Asia. They didn't have a problem with the Vietnamese people. They didn't know what the hell Viet Cong was. They were farmer boys back then, or inner city youths trying to go to college to make a life for themselves. They didn't want to be out there trudging through a fucking swamp, getting tore up by leeches and mosquitoes, getting malaria. For what? You think those Russian boys want to be out there in the trenches, freezing their ass off right now, worrying about, waiting for the buzz of another fucking drone dropping a grenade in their trench? You think they had any choice on that? No, that's Putin. You could be angry at Putin and still respect the people because they're being brutalized and forced into a situation they didn't want to be in. I mean, come on. Well, they're stealing Minnesotans' tax dollars for sure, and I would be upset. The more investigations they go through, the higher the numbers go. That we have unchecked. The unchecked migration has got to stop. It does, and that's a something from the Uniparty. It's not just Democrats, but also Republicans. Um, Never should have happened. Never should have happened. This chain migration bullshit has got to stop. We need to go back to the 60s where we were more selective about people that we were allowing to migrate to the United States because they were from compatible cultures. We tried the open cultural society and we tried opening our doors to the entire planet. It doesn't work. Not all cultures are equal or compatible. And it's causing too much division with not enough net benefit to counteract that here in the country. And then you're importing these people that have no love or loyalty for our country other than the wealth they can extract and send back home to a legitimate terrorist organization in Al Shabaab. No. No. You're not from here. You don't share American values. You're from a failed state. And perfectly honest, you couldn't get your own civilization correct, filled with a land full of your own people. Your failed civilization, just like so many other civilizations have fell in the ash bin of history, and we don't want them. And we don't have to take them. Why? What is our incentive to take these people? They fucked up their own land full of their own people. They can't figure their own shit out. They can't get along. Well, what do you think is going to happen when you take these people from a failed civilization and integrate them into your society? Just being perfectly 100% real with you right now. What do you think that's going to do to our civilization and our society? When you take we used to have a high trust society. And now we're turning rapidly into a low trust society precisely because we're bringing all these people in from low trust societies. Yeah, British people started this. Yes, you are our cousins. Many of us here can trace our distant relations back to our homelands over in Europe. The problem with Europe right now is that they're kind of getting away from Western values and civilization. They're Europe. The EU is basically becoming Soviet light. They are becoming the Soviets, but without the military to back it up. Straight up. Unelected bureaucrats are controlling your societies. They're consistently going against the will of the people, incentivizing their own citizens to make babies. They are just bringing every swinging dick from all over the planet, and it's fucking Europe up. And they're trying to do that here, but at least we have a Trump type figure that like put a kibosh on that bullshit. At least with a border situation. I mean, when you have Britain, that was the greatest naval power to ever exist on this planet, and you can't stop a fucking rubber dinghy from going across the channel from France over the landing on your shores, and you should be sinking those boats. They don't have a right to land in Britain. They should be forced to turn back to France, or you sink them in the English Channel. You should not be taking them aboard and giving them succor. They should be sent packing back from whence they came. But unfortunately, you guys don't seem to have the intestinal fortitude to make the hard decisions to do that, to save your society. Your bleeding hearts are going to get, it's called suicidal empathy. That's the new phrase going around right now, and it's apropos. It's a very apt moniker about what's happening in Europe. You're experiencing suicidal empathy. You need to start thinking about you and yours. That includes your nation. These people don't want to be where you're at. They just want what you have. And they're coming to get it like an invading force. They will hollow you out, send every scrap of wealth they can fit in their pockets, and send it back home. That's what's happening. And there's too many of us that are allowing that to happen with a smile on their face because at least, like, well, at least I'm not a bigot. Well, you know what? Maybe you should be a little racist. Just a little bit. Have a little bit of care for your people, for God's sakes, at the very least. That's crazy. Britain is a very small island. You have billions of people that want to be there. You gonna fit everyone there in that little island? Are you out of your goddamn mind? Do you not want a future for the British people? Fortunately, it seems like there are some that are getting fed up with it, and that's why there were so many people that showed up at that last Tommy Robinson rally. It was ginormous. Yeah. 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 And they're trying to use this dumbass like, well, we have it coming because we were colonial powers. Fuck that. Fuck that. You know what? The British, the empire, as imperfect as it was, brought civilization to savages across the planet. They just did. They brought about a common language, a common currency, and a rule of law with British common law. And these places they went into were literally spear chucking savages that couldn't get out of their own way and were eating each other because they're fucking cannibals. And he's like, you know what? We'll feed you so you can stop eating each other. We'll show you how to make cloth so you can wear proper clothes, not fucking animal skins. And we'll teach you how to plant crops. And yeah, you can keep some of the crops. You can make a little money. You can feed yourselves. And then we're going to take the profits. And then we're going to grow the empire. Yeah, and they don't get enough credit for it in the British Empire. But as awful and as colonial as you think they were, they're the ones that ended slavery in Western societies. It was the British in the 1830s. To this day, West Africa has not recovered economically because that was their bread and butter, selling their own fucking people because they're little tribal fucking dipshits. That was their bread and butter. And when the British put a kibosh to that shit, they didn't have anything else. They couldn't figure out anything else to do economically besides sell each other. That's why West Africa right now is a basket case. Because the British finally had enough of their bullshit. He's like, you know what? You're right. We're Christian. This is wrong. We should not have slaves. We're putting an end to the slave trade. Period. We're not having a debate about it. We're not going to put people on trial. If I see that you're a slaver ship, His Majesty or Her Majesty's ship out here are going to unleash fucking hell on that slave trader and sink that fucking boat. And they did. To great expense, by the way. To great expense. You know, the only reason Thomas Jefferson actually had to create the Marines and the American Navy is because we had to go deal with the fucking Barbary pirates there in North Africa. Because the European powers, even though they were right next door, were perfectly willing just to pay these fuckers tribute and ransom instead of taking care of the fucking problem. Jefferson created the fucking leathernecks, and he went in there. He's like, you know what? We're not doing that. We're not paying you a goddamn thing. And in fact, you fucking savages are going to stop what you're doing, especially to American ships, or we're just going to fucking level your city, and we're going to start with Tripoli. So knock your shit off. And they did. They did. We had to go in there a couple times, but we fucking knocked their block off, and we made our fucking point. You don't touch our boats. You don't touch our people, or we're going to come and kick your fucking ass. That's how you deal with a goddamn savage. Yeah. Canada, too. A lot of Scots in Canada. Well, guess what? All I can't overcome grape shot or Greek fire. I'm just saying. Yeah. No. You deal with the you give them, you show them what they respect, and the savages respect strength. So you have to be stronger than they are. You have to put the boot to their neck. No, to force them to be civilized, to force them to behave. Then they can go fight amongst themselves. I don't give a fuck. They want to fling shit at each other all day, and their shitty little civilizations. I don't give a fuck as long as they're not screwing with us. And that's what the British Empire did. Why do you think they were able to go in there with some boats and like 5,000 troops and take out an entire continent? You ever think about that? It's kind of like what the Spaniards did with South and Central America and parts of North America. And it's not like they had overwhelming troops from Spaniards. You know? You got a lot of shit, you know, you hear a lot about the shit about the Mexicans and all that. It's like, you know what, the reason that you're a Mexican is because you're blended with Spaniards, you're blended with European blood. You are an immigrant. But the main force that comprised the ending of the Aztec Empire, the taking out Montezuma, wasn't the Spaniards. It was all the Aztec vassal states that were being brutalized because they got tired of their fucking kin being sent up to the Teocallis and being sacrificed to their blood god. It didn't take a lot of convincing to brutalize people to band together when you had a coalescing force of the Spaniards coming in, who seemed to be there by divinity to change the situation. And yeah, I think they're even where they're at today, they're still better off than they were with the assembly line of death going up the Teocallis with the river of blood flowing down. I'm just saying. Yeah. Well, they had to be. They were all tough back then, man. They were all tough. The pioneers and the explorers, yeah, they were all hard as nails. They had to be. They had to be. Different breed. You'll see something similar when we actually are able to explore space. It's going to take a tough son of a bitch that's okay without having all the accoutrements of civilization around them to go out there and explore, to make a name for themselves, to settle an area, not immigrate, settle, create civilization out of nothing. Yeah. Do I know where my family came from? Yeah, Europe. All over. I'm kind of a mutt. A lot of us are. Very few purebloods here in America because, I mean, we've been over here since the 1600s. So, yeah, we've interbred, and a lot of people came from everywhere. Yeah, they did. They just finished the Reconquista. They kicked all the Moors and Muslims out of fucking the Iberian Peninsula back to North Africa. And then shortly after that, they were um, funding expeditions to Columbus and he discovered the New World, and there was a new arms race. They're like, oh shit, there's a lot of real estate over there. We're gonna go get some. They got a lot of gold. You realize the Spaniards got so much gold out of the Americas, they almost collapsed their economy through deflation. If you guys know that, they got so much gold out of the New World, they damn near collapsed their economy. It was literally too much of a good thing. Yeah, if you guys are smart, you're going to have a Reconquista 2.0 because this shit's got to stop. You realize we couldn't go through the Renaissance. We couldn't get out of the Dark Ages until you kick the Muslim horde out of Europe, and then that loosened the grip on society, where you can actually have your society flourish in the arts and everything else, and then you have the Renaissance. Oh yeah, well, it's just how about space? That's going to be the new place. I mean, mining on the planet is going to be once they get these robots. Once they get these robots perfected, where they can go out there and mine these asteroids. I mean, they already have discovered an asteroid that it's worth some kind of absurd amount of money, like more than the entire planet's economy. It's in the quadrillions because of the amount of gold and minerals this one asteroid is made out of, and they know exactly where it's at. I can't remember the exact name they gave it, but if you go Google it, it's worth quadrillions of dollars. If they were actually able to harvest this asteroid, it would collapse the entire planet's economy. No shit. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You know what I'm talking about. There's like I like comments support like right. I truly. Well, thank you, How to Spell Mark. I appreciate that. Yeah, he probably does. Hey, Diver, you don't have to like him, but the guy is smart. You don't get to be a real estate mogul and a billionaire by being a moron. You just don't. You may not like his policies, but remember this: you guys were all for Trump when he was a Democrat, right? You guys didn't start not liking Trump until he came out and ran for a president as a Republican. Just bear that in mind. But prior to that, he was a pop cultural icon. You loved him. But see, he's a blue dog Democrat. He actually has a nationalistic streak through him. He actually gives a shit about the United States. He wants what's best for the American people. You don't have to like that. But that's how he feels. And you can see that in the way he implements his policies. He's definitely a showman. Uh, he is. He's addicted to the arts and entertainment. No doubt about it. He's always about the pomp and circumstance and the glamour and the attention and all that. I'm not saying he doesn't have a massive ego, whether it's deserved or not. It is what it is. But right now, he's implementing policies that I happen to agree with, and I've wanted implemented for a very long time, and it's happening. So he's my guy. Period. I want the deportations. I want them to increase. I want business owners to go up being gone after. I like what he's doing for trucking in America. I like that he's taking a lot of these sanctuary cities and states that are open rebellion of the federal government for decades. I like that he's bringing them the heel, and a rule of law being implemented. I'm tired of the tyranny that we're experiencing right now, where they just implement or just enforce any law willy-nilly and ignore others, and that's no way to run a society. These rogue states need to be brought to heel, like California and Oregon and Washington State. They need to be brought to heel. Illinois needs to be brought to heel. You are part of the union, whether you like it or not, and you're going to act and you're going to conduct yourself as you are. Otherwise, there's going to be consequences. Trying to get along with the second most nuclear power. How the Soviets had more nukes than us. I don't think the Russian Federation has had the money to maintain their stockpile from the old Soviet era, but they still have a significant amount of nukes. So getting along with people with that many nukes is a good idea. We should not want to build a chasm between our societies. We want to build a bridge. As a matter of fact, we should be getting along with Russia and the EU as a coalition to keep the Chinese in check. But right now, we're driving the
Russians into the Chinese arms, and that's the exact wrong tactic we should be taking. We should be unified because the Chinese is a problem. At least their government. Again, it's not the people themselves, but it's their government. It's abysmal. And if we don't do something soon, it's going to be a problem. We did. We did. Well, I don't think it's the most devastating weapon that we have on the planet. Look. Nukes are 100-year-old technology. They were invented by guys that were really good at math with a stick of chalk and a blackboard. No computers. They were able to build a bomb. Straight up. Nowadays, yeah, I mean, we've developed ways to put more tonnage, more explosive power into a nuke. But I don't think that's the most devastating weapon we have anymore. I think there's other shit out there like biological, chemical. We may even have nanites, man. I mean, we've already used the CRISPR machine. We've mapped the human genome. We can trace people by their DNA genetically, right? So there's nothing to say that they don't have a boutique virus that they created that will only kill white people, Caucasian. You have the Caucasian gene in you. We're going to cloud seed. It's going to rain down over your city, and anybody with this particular genetic trait in their DNA is going to be susceptible, and they die. Everyone else will be okay. They probably have shit like that right now. That's the shit that's truly frightening because there's no defense against that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And every race has genetic markers that they could find ways of taking advantage of it. That's the real scary shit. Nanites. Oof. You want to talk? Yeah, let's talk about nanites. We'll just have these self-replicating nanites. We'll get a little bit these little tiny robots. You'll find them. They'll find a way into your body somehow. They'll use you as raw materials to make more of them, and they're programmed to do a certain thing. Maybe it could be from curing cancer to turning you to a puddle of gray goo. That's the scary shit right there. And you know what? There's no fallout. The real estate stays pristine. You just get rid of the people, right? And in the end, that's what they want. They just want the territories. But unfortunately, you happen to be there. Well, these little nano machines will just come in and just we'll just disintegrate you from the inside out, and then the problem kind of solves itself, right? Yes, yes, but here's the problem. Like I said, nukes are 100-year-old technology, and they were able to do it prior to the computer age. So that means even these third world countries will eventually figure out how to make their own nukes. And yes, it will be devastating. It's just like gunpowder, essentially, right? In the beginning, only a handful of countries had gunpowder, and then everyone had cannons. Everyone had cannons at a certain point. Nukes will be the same way. Unfortunately, that genie is out of the bottle. They're trying to put a kibosh on it by controlling it, but it's the technology's been around and it's too old. It's like trying to stop a water wheel. Remember when the water wheel was first invented, it was like, oh my God, we can turn mills and all this over all the production, and all of a sudden everyone had water wheels on a river. You can't stop it. The genie's out of the bottle. Yeah, the UAPs, that's another thing, man. There's a lot of crazy shit with the drone technology. I don't know if they're aliens or not, to be honest. Um, I do think there is other intelligent life out there. I really do.
Our ancestors were not stupid people. You got to realize that. Genetically speaking, they were no different than we are today. They just had a different technological framework, but they were just as smart and clever and able to problem solve just like we can. And they saw something. They saw shit flying around the sky, and they wrote it down. Um, I think humanity's been here for a lot longer than what we realized. I mean, we can trace Homo sapien back, shit, at least 300,000 years. 300,000 years. A people just like us, 300,000 years ago. And if you look at the scope of our written history that we see right now, it only goes back about 10,000 years. From chucking stone spears and atlatls to we got drones on Mars. 10,000 years. Think about that. And we've been around at least 300,000 years. So, yeah, I think we're on a cycle. I think we get to a certain level of civilization. We have some kind of global cataclysm, and then civilizations reset to zero, and then we got to do it all over again. I think this has happened a lot in human history. Just unfortunately, with the nature of our planet, and the utter collapse of a civilization, it doesn't take long for Earth to reclaim everything and just grind everything up into powder, and then there's no proof that you even were around anymore. So you have subtle signs like stone monuments and whatnot, but that's about all that's left for you. See, I'd rather talk about UAPs and this other stuff, and you guys can talk about Chinese dicks, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. It's Christmas. You can talk about what you want, I guess. Yeah, ultra terrestrial. Yeah. No, man. I mean, look, there's ancient Hindu texts that they describe what was, by all accounts, a nuclear conflagration. And it just, and they go to these areas that these texts were speaking of, and they found these little nodules of these minerals that only could be, that you don't find them in nature. You only find them when there's like a great heating event, like a nuclear fire. And yeah, it's there. But it's happened so long ago that the radiation levels have died down. All right. So, but the Hindus wrote about it. They wrote about it. And there's some physical evidence of something occurring there that doesn't happen in nature. So I think there's a lot of crazy shit that's happened on this planet, to be perfectly honest. A cyclical cycle. Yes, a cyclical cycle. It's a cycle. Yeah, it sounds like an oxymoron, but it just means a cycle that repeats itself. It's kind of redundant. I get it. I get it, Diver. I get it. I get it. All right. You have to be so pedantic about everything. Good Lord. I mean, I don't know why people have such a hard time believing that there's other intelligent or aliens out there. I mean, with the technology we possess today, just in the universe that we can see, there are more galaxies out there than we have grains of sand on a beach. Those are galaxies. And each galaxy is just filled chocolate block full of stars and planets, and it's just like there's just so many of them. And some have been around longer than others, some are more stable than others. Um,
it just boggles the mind to think that we're out of all of that, we're the only ones. It's like, no, that's not. They just they explored. They got like a sample from this one asteroid. I was reading an article not too long ago, and it already had the basic chemical composition on that asteroid that would make DNA. And there's a lot of water, so it's like it seems like that this chunk of water or ice, this ice asteroid was like got peeled off from a water world somewhere, and it's been floating through our galaxy for billions of years, and it has still the basic chemical composition that would make DNA floating around in the void. And that's where the whole concept of the spanpermia or panspermia theory comes from. The Earth was seeded from asteroids and comets from around, uh, and they brought the chemicals and the building blocks of life to our planet. So, yeah, exactly. Whatever, man. If you guys want to be pedantic, whatever. It wasn't DNA proper, but it was the 7 or 8 chemicals that come together to form DNA. What I'm saying is they had the individual component parts to form DNA on this asteroid that we took a sample from, floating around the void. That's what I'm saying. I believe that, Ghost. I am so uneducated. This is hilarious. Look, man, that's what the article said. I'm not on my laptop. I can't go pull the article up for you. That's what they. You just want to argue, dude. I didn't write the article. I just found it fascinating. All right. I'm just telling you about what I read. Is that a problem? Which part am I uneducated on? About the samples and the chemical makeup of this asteroid? Am I making that shit up? Which part am I making up? Explain the kernel? I don't know. All right. I think the Colonel should explain. Did I miss somebody's comment? I don't know who the Colonel is. Who's Colonel? Oh, Colonel Sanders. Oh, you're eating up the propaganda. Gotcha. Hey, look. Here's what it is. Some people just want to come in and argue and not actually have a discussion and talking about cool shit. They just want to come in and nitpick and be pricks. I mean, just being honest. That's the internet. Welcome to the internet, population you. Well, if that's true, that's pretty cool. She was around for a long time. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We should be getting along with Russia. I just wish Putin would cool his jets. Quit being such an asshole. We could all get along. You can sell all the energy you want to Europe. Europe wouldn't be a basket case because they're having to buy more expensive gas from us because we're having to ship it across the Atlantic. But he's dead set on reconstituting the old Soviet Empire, and people aren't going to tolerate that. Especially Poland. Poland is definitely not going to put up with that shit. They had to deal with the tyranny of the Nazis and the communists. They are not going back. They are not going back. Hey, you never know. Dude, there are so many weird theories out there that it will blow your mind. The simulation theory we're on a matrix, and there's a little bit of evidence for that, at least enough to make you like, shit, are we all actually in the matrix? They get down to the quantum level, and it's like pixelation, which is kind of terrifying if you think about it. I mean, they get down to the quantum level, and shit's popping in and out of reality, and they don't. And then there's experiments you can do right now where matter behaves differently when it's under observation, which means it's like a server, like an RPG where your character is looking at a view, but whatever you're not looking at hasn't been rendered yet until you turn your character's head in that direction, and all of a sudden that view gets rendered by the computer. But then what you were just looking at goes away. So unless it's under observation, it's not really there. Kind of like a video game. And they're finding a lot of that shit out, just like, just from the wavelength theory, just from the wavelength experiment. And like I said, they're finding shit popping in and out of reality at the quantum level. It's almost like I don't know if some of you are old enough to remember when the old TV stations would end their broadcasting for the day, and they'd play the national anthem, and all of a sudden you had the white snow, you had the static, until they started the signal and back up in the morning, right? That's kind of what like reality is at the quantum level. We're all pixelated static snow popping in and out of reality until order is brought to the organism, and it creates whatever we're observing. I mean, that's some crazy shit. Yeah, well, that's the problem, right? Once you realize that you're in a matrix, then nothing that you do really matters, and then you have anarchy, and it would be a terrifying reality at that point, because this may not be the only reality, but it is our reality. But even our ancestors knew that there was something askance about what's going on, because that's how religion came about. Even our ancestors, they just didn't have the technological framework, right? They didn't know about servers and save files and the transmission of information and whatnot. Uh, instead of Back then, instead of a save file for like your character, like on a Nintendo or whatever, they call it a soul. Because what is a soul? It is your informational makeup of who you are. It's the informational expression of who you are as a person. It's your save file, essentially. And they think when you die, your save file is uploaded to one of two servers, heaven or hell. Well, that by itself, by their own beliefs, show that they knew that this reality was not the only reality, and that we go somewhere else when we're done here. So the matrix theory really isn't that far-fetched. It's kind of the same thing, but with a technological bent to it. Yeah. And just think about that. That's all. Religion is just the matrix without the technology, because they didn't have the same framework. And if you don't have the framework, you wouldn't have the words to express your ideas, right? Like I said, they don't know about internet, or downloading means, or uploading, or saving your file, or spam and all that shit. They just knew about your soul goes to another place if it's deemed worthy, or if you're unworthy, you go somewhere else. That would be the delete file. Yeah. You're playing a video game and that one NPC keeps glitching out. That's right. Unfortunately, yeah. Good news is you realize you're in a simulation. Bad news is you realize you're in a Bethesda game with all the bugs. Like, oh shit. Hey, well, I mean, in that case, whoever created the simulation would be God, right? They're the one with all the mods. They're the one with all the cheat codes. They can put themselves on the God mode and go out there and tear up a game. Yeah, they have mod access. They can download the cheats. Look, I mean, it's as far flung as it could be. I mean, like I said, it's no different than what people believe of religion. Like I said, it's just religion with technology, in technological terms. When Neo met the architect, well, the architect would be God, right? Because he controls the matrix. The outside of the matrix, about the true purpose of what the matrix is for. At that point, it was just, well, supposedly using people as batteries to power the machines in the real in the physical world. But that was the purpose of the matrix, to keep people from flipping out and be good little batteries. We don't know what the true designs of what that deity would be, what the function of our reality would actually serve, if any at all. But it's fun thinking about. Yeah, yeah, it's a trip. Yeah, the cargo coat thing is right. Yeah, because the soldiers are bringing in food and clothes and whatnot, and metal like pocket knives and shit. And these natives had never seen that because they're stuck on a fucking rock in the middle of the Pacific, and they want that back because that was the best thing they ever had. But that's colonialism, right? That's colonialism. We can't have that. They brought in a bunch of outside shit that they're never gonna have. Oh, you've been a bad boy, Ghost. Whew. All right, let me see what this is. What's up, Bugs? What's going on, man? Merry Christmas, Davis. I mean, Yak, and I think I missed some of you guys. As let's see, God is just a server admin. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Jesus couldn't say Jesus from Jesus creations. Yeah. Well, I mean, unfortunately, that's some of that's true. Like I said, I'm more agnostic than anything. So I grew up Christian. I get called out for using Christian euphemisms, but I grew up in a Christian society. It is what it is. You know, I would say I am spiritual, but I'm not necessarily an advocate for any one organized religion. For various reasons. But it's Christmas. I'm not going to go out there and rain on people's parades. To be honest, it's even for agnostics as myself, it's still a nice time of the year where you get together with family. Peace, will, and love of man and mankind. I know some of you perverts are going to twist that, but yeah, um, it's just supposed to be a time, at least one time a year we can harmonize together and not kill each other. Yeah, see, I knew somebody was gonna fuck it up. I knew it. I knew it. As soon as I said it, I'm like, fuck. No. Inky and Enli, Shiva and Vishnu, Samael and Lucifer. Yeah. I am divine, I do no wrong. Well, Trump for Mount Rushmore? Why not? He's done more for our country right now than many presidents have at least in my lifetime. He's actually trying to save the American working class jobs. the few that we're going to have left after automation takes a lot because of AI. And I'm not so naive not to think that some of that is part of the reason why they're going so hard in the paint on the immigrants, because they realize the economic damage that's going to happen on regular people like you and I, and the way we earn a living, and the few jobs that remain. It's going to set off a revolution within the citizenry if we keep importing infinite migrants to fill these jobs that aren't going to be enough to go around for American citizens to make a living, and that's gonna cause a lot of problems. I think that's one of the reasons why they're so hard in the paint for like non-English speaking CDL holders, because they know the robots are coming and the amount of CDL jobs are going to greatly decrease, and they want to make sure there's jobs to go around for people like you and I that are older, that we can still have a living, you know, because we don't have a UBI set up. We don't, I mean, you're not just going to replace this job. So I think that's one of the reasons. There are many reasons for why Trump is doing a lot of these things. And there's a lot of factions that are going in with a common purpose, but coming in with different motives, you know. And that's just the way politics is. You have many, you have a coalition, but you have similar goals, but maybe coming in with different reasons why you want that particular outcome. And it is what it is. Yeah, I know, it's awesome, isn't it? And that's not even adjusted for inflation. That's actually cheaper than what it was during his first administration, because we've had 40% inflation on the currency. So just think about that. You know, once you get energy, once you have cheap energy, everything else gets cheaper. It's one of those industries that affects literally everything in our lives. So once you get that under control, it will naturally drop everything else, which is a good thing. You know, and it just goes to show you it didn't have to be the way it was. It's politics that got in the way. It wasn't because of human ingenuity or desire. It was plain politics. It was politicians that were highly invested in these green new deal technologies, and they had insider trading information, and because they bought so heavily in these technologies, they wanted to force the public into that direction to make themselves rich. That's essentially what happened with the Green New Deal. It's politicians being invested in these technologies, and we saw that with Energy Secretary Granholm under the Biden administration. She was flat out busted for doing that very thing. She was heavily invested in these EV technologies for these vehicles, and they made her energy secretary, and she was forcing everyone off the IC internal combustion engine and into these bullshit battery cars because she was heavily invested on it and because she wanted to get rich. I mean, that's essentially what happened. Yeah. Yeah, oil is renewable. That's another bullshit myth. And that's something I heard growing up in Gen X. Oh, it's a fossil fuel. That's bullshit. We have an abiotic system. Oil is a natural byproduct of the crust from the makeup of this planet and the contact between the crust and the mantle of the earth. And then when it creates the oil, it bubbles to the surface until it can't rise to the surface anymore. And then that's why we have to dig so deep to go get it. But yeah, it's the earth makes more of it. And it always will, because that's just what the earth is made out of. We're made out of carbon, and carbon under great pressure makes oil and heat. Well, heat and pressure. We have that in abundance at the between the earth crust and mantle, and then yeah, it just the earth makes more. It's not dinosaurs, it's not plants, it's not any of that shit. Though, since we're made out of carbon, eventually, if we were put under heat and pressure, we would turn into a little bit of oil too, right? So I mean, it's not complete bullshit, but the vast amounts that we keep digging out of the ground and at that depth, It's not dinosaurs. It's just what the Earth is made out of. And they tell you it's a fossil fuel to scare you to think it's a finite resource, and that way they can justify the expense and the cost of the price per barrel of oil. Basically, it's the illusion of scarcity to drive up cost is what it is. Yeah, almost going on 2 hours. Normally I cut off an hour, but I am gonna have to go here in a little bit. Dude, it might have been at one point. Who knows? Like I said, our ancestors saw something. They put it on cave paintings and ancient texts and the clay tablets, that we're able to view today. I mean, they made pictures. It's like, oh, look, here's an antelope. We can tell that's an antelope. Oh, these are people. You got little spears waving around. You got little arrows. They're chucking at these antelopes and whatnot. And all of a sudden, you got this big fucking bipedal giant walking around with a goddamn club. Like, huh? Well, everything else is easily recognizable. What the fuck was that? Wait, you think they're just doodling bullshit on a cave wall? Or are they recording what they actually saw? I mean, just think about that. They may not be around anymore. It doesn't mean they were never around. I mean, they drew shit that doesn't exist on the planet anymore too, right? Saber-toothed cats and whatnot. I'd never seen one, but they did. They had to deal with that shit on the regular. Doesn't mean it never existed because we don't see them today. Yeah. Look, man, I was trying to make this point earlier. I got on a tangent, but it's think about the technological difference between Columbus when he had the Nina Pinta and the Santa Maria, and they landed on Hispaniola, and they were looking at the natives who were still literally in the Stone Age, and here comes Christopher Columbus off these ships, wearing metal and cloth and all this other stuff, and it's like that. The technological difference between that and the natives of Hispaniola was probably a couple thousand years, right? Because they were in the Stone Age. Columbus was in the Exploration Age. So they went through the stone, the bronze, the iron, the steel, to where they're at, they had gunpowder and everything else. So probably a couple thousand, because the Bronze Age was back, what, BC, about 2000 BC, right? And he landed over there in 1492. So we're talking about 3,500-year difference in technological development. Well, our universe has been around for a couple of billion years, guys. So some galaxies will have cooled and been hospitable to life faster than other areas of the universe, and or even our galaxy. So there's not, and it's turning out that water is pretty common around the universe, and so are some of these chemical makeups for that like I was talking about earlier about the life blocks of the universe, the amino acids, the chemical makeup that makes up the DNA. So there's nothing to say that these green zones across the universe or even our own galaxy didn't develop faster than other areas, and they developed intelligent life, and they got a massive head start by, I don't know, say 5 million years. And now they're out there exploring the galaxy. We can't, we're barely getting to Mars, and we still can't get past, we can't even get to the moon again with people. I mean, think about just the technological difference. And there's a lot of hinky shit about human DNA that doesn't make sense for Earth if you get down to brass tacks. Some of the arguments are heard is like our skeletal structure, our back, like our spine, is not optimal for this level of gravity. It seems like our skeletal structure is more designed for a lighter gravity system. That's why there's so many people with back problems and their discs are rupturing and yada, yada, yada. It's because really optimized for this planet. Our eyes. How many of us have to wear sunglasses because it's too bright? You see any other animals out here needing sunglasses to see just fine? No, because they're from here. Their eyes are developed from here. It's like our eyes are developed for a system with less luminance. So we have to shade our eyes. Our skin is not optimized for this planet. Our hide. All the other animals don't have problems with things like sunburning and all this other shit, or they have a thick enough hide, enough hair or fur or whatever to protect themselves from the radiation of the sun. We're not. We're like uniquely not situated for that on this planet. We need sunblock. We need shit on our skin to protect us from the sun. It's almost like we're from somewhere that it's not quite as bright and we didn't have quite the amount of radiation penetrating to the surface that we do here. So, I mean, there's a lot of weird shit about who we are as a species on the adaptability of this planet. I know it's kind of weird to think about, but it's just like, how about our level of allergies? Now, I've seen animals with allergies, but I haven't seen animals with like super chronic allergies to the level that we have them. It's like our system, our autoimmune system is fighting to breathe on this planet because we're allergic to everything. Well, I mean, you don't see that problem at the degree that we do as people. You don't see the animals having to go out and take antihistamines and shit, right? I mean, just think about that. Yeah, I didn't. No, I didn't say that. Yeah. Still banned here? I don't know. FM. I don't know who you are, FM. Boggs, Archangel, Michael, and Satan's father. I don't know about all that. That's all. That's all. It's all mythology, man. I'm not saying we all do, but there's a significant part of our population that the environment is actively killing them or making them so uncomfortable. It's just you don't see that to the degree that we see that in the other in the animal kingdoms. What I'm saying, they seem to be more adapted to this environment than we are as a species. I don't know why. It's it's always struck me as odd. Well, he was a demigod. I mean, he was a Nephilim. That's what the Epic of Gilgamesh was. He was resentful that the Anunnaki made him, but did not grant him immortality. So he went on his epic to try to find his immortality as his was his birthright. If I remember the story correctly, I can't recite for you every trial about it, but I remember that's what the Epic of Gilgamesh was about. He was a king. He was a Nephilim. He was a half breed. He was a demigod, however you want to call it, and he wanted to live forever because he was half god, and he felt that was his birthright. Yeah, Anunnaki and the Nephilim. Yeah, you ever read the Book of Enoch? Now that was in the Christian Bible to not that long ago. It's still in the Ethiopian Christian Bible. The Book of Enoch, space Jews. It's crazy as it sounds. Go look it up. It is what it is. It's Jews in space. You know, picked up this random Jew named Enoch, took him up in space, hung out with the angels, aliens, whatever. They're supposed to be the watchers, watching over the earth. And they've been here so long, they got horny, and they decided they wanted to sleep with all the Earth women because they found Earth women hot. And then they started making Nephilim, half breeds, and some turned out to be giants. And that's where that whole mythology comes from. It's weird. I didn't make it. I didn't say I have to necessarily believe it. I'm just saying it was written about, and it was a real thing for Christianity for a long time. Space Jews, yes. Well, the Anunnaki, Nephilim, whatever you want to call them, man. Angels, Nephilim, whatever. Anunnaki. Anunnaki is just another word for angel, right? It's just a Sumerian. I think it's a Sumerian word. Yeah. Just like Nephilim just means demigod or half god, if I remember correctly. And supposedly that's why God flooded the earth, because he killed off all the Nephilim because they were taken over. Gilgamesh was the leader of the Uruk, Sauron was the leader of the Uruk-hai, both demigods. Hell, it could be.
Which is funny because so was Gandalf. Technically, he was a Maiar, just like Sauron, just like Saruman, just like the only oddball in that whole story, because he was just such a weirdo fucking character. Was oh god, who was that guy? The random guy they found in the woods, the happy jolly guy. What the fuck was his name? Tom Bombadil. Tom Bombadil was the only oddball. He didn't fit in with the Valar and the Maiar and all that. He was actually more powerful than Sauron. He just didn't give a shit. He was just living his life in the woods, and he had a couple of wives, and that's all he really gave a shit about. The political machinations on who owned what and all that, he didn't give one flying fuck about. He was just Tom Bombadil in the woods, and he was a jolly fellow.
Something that he was basically token, just writing himself into the story, kind of. But yeah, Lord of the Rings. I mean, it makes sense, right? He's Christian. He grew up in the horror. He served in the horrors of World War One. He actually created languages like the Elven language. He actually created. It was based on Welsh because it's the language of the Cthulhu. Yeah, yeah. A lot of what he saw in World War One shaped the conflict in the Middle Earth. I mean, World War One was truly horrifying. The Woods Wizard, yeah. Like I said, Tom Bombadil, he was the oddball. He didn't fit. That's why he wasn't. They didn't introduce him in the Peter Jacksons because it's like they didn't know what to do with him. He was just kind of a throw off character. They met him once. They didn't know what to make of him, but turns out that he was like he could have just stopped Sauron with a snap of his fingers because he was so powerful. He just chose not to because he didn't care. He literally was so all powerful that he was so aloof. He just didn't give a shit because he didn't have to. Because he's Tom fucking Bombadil. That's why, and he said so. Bombadil 316. Yeah. All right. All right, guys. Merry Christmas. Thanks for being here. I had a good time. I like the new faces. If you're new here, I don't have a set schedule, so if you want to hit sub, we'll do it again. But I appreciate you. Merry Christmas. TC out.